the only person I've ever met who has successfully outrun the police in a car chase. Or so I thought. I'll get back to that later. It starts with an urban legend. But first I want to take a step back. Do you know what happens if you try to outrun the police and fail? I can't speak for every place in the world, or every state in the U.S., but Georgia? Them state troopers, they don't take kindly to chasing after people. I have a distant cousin, by marriage, not blood, Chris Merritt. We were the same age, same grade in grammar school, but before junior high, or sometime, he failed 2 years. Just not a very bright boy. I don't know why he gave chase. Like, I don't think he was involved with drugs. Maybe he was drunk. The cops pulled him out of the car, beat him up, took his Georgia driver's license and set it on fire right in front of his face. Then threw him in jail. Not sure what he was charged with. License revoked. Do you have any idea how hard it is to get a job if you can't drive to work in America? That's the fact, not the urban legend. What makes an urban legend? A lot of people talking about something, some rumor, gossip, but no one actually knows or can name anyone in the story. So there was this story around school about girls driving at night either in Bogart or Winder. It don't matter. I can't remember anymore. The gist of it was the police were there, and they would stop girls driving alone at night, molest or rape them. That's the urban legend. Young girls, don't drive through that area at night. This was 1984. I was all of 17 and had moved out of my parents' house and into my first apartment in town. Early days. Back then we didn't play video games, and I grew up in an America car culture that I don't know still exists. Before indoor malls, there was just the shopping center parking lots. Cruising around was popular. You'd have to have your music in the car. Just driving around and, for fun, looking for a good road to drive fast on. That would be Mitchell Bridge Road. It had little or no traffic mostly. You started at the top of a hill and driving all the way downhill. It had long sweeping curves, and sometimes you'd have to cross the line to go faster around the corners you could not see. At the bottom was a bridge with a room for only one car. So if you're going fast enough, this was a dangerous challenge. It's like you're racing with the whole world. Today, it's built up with big shopping centers at the top and more traffic, and they widened that bridge. But I'm sure the kids have found another road to race around on. For us, that car was our toy. A very dangerous toy. Lots of teenagers die in car accidents. It wasn't even a law to wear your seatbelt then. I loved driving around listening to music. After work, I drove all over the backroads in my new neighborhood. It's a very pretty area behind Sunset Drive. On the night in question, my friend, who just graduated too, came down to hang out with me and stay at my new apartment. We went to my boyfriend's for a bit, and the nasty dog, he flirted with my friend, which kind of pissed me off. We didn't drink or smoke anything. Afterwards, we just drove around talking, listening to music. I think kids are so used to not having some place to go. They kind of lived in their cars. Gas was so cheap back then. Around 11:30, I drove past a police car parked at the laundromat just ahead of my apartment block. He pulled out right behind, flashed his lights. I slowed down, pulled over. We were not speeding. He took some time shining a bright light in our faces, and then all over the interior of my car, looking. He said I had swerved. He hadn't followed us for 2 seconds, and I know I didn't swerve. I'd not drank, and we didn't have anything in the car. He could tell we were clean and sober. He asked us what we were doing. Just driving around talking. He looked at us like we were crazy. I gave him my license. I still had my parents' home address on it, which was way down the road and off the loop out of town. When he asked if this was my address, I said yes because I was a little scared and had also just driven past my apartment complex. So he said, "You girls need to go home now." That made me angry because I just moved out of my parents' home. I don't have a curfew anymore, and we were not doing anything. It wasn't even midnight. So I just drove off like I was heading to my parents' house. I went round the loop, and for the next 2 hours, I drove all around the east side of town, knowing I'd have to come back to go home, to where I really lived. I'm not a child. I don't have to go home. I resented anyone telling me what to do. So when I drove by that laundromat, the cop car pulled out right behind me with the lights on. Instead of pulling over, this time I did a quick right turn and put my foot down. I wasn't thinking far ahead, like I didn't have a plan that second. I knew I didn't have much time. I had good sports tires on my car. I had tested them. I knew my new area well enough, but I really had going for me was I knew where I was going. At my apartment complex, there lived 2 elderly ladies that had a champagne-colored Cadillac. They always parked it in the first space in the lot. There's a large grass area around the building, big enough for a car, high trees on the other side. So as I made several fast rides, I drove into the parking lot, pulled up right beside that caddy, on the grass area hidden by the trees. Turned off the engine, lights, we even ducked. And I saw the lights of the police car scream down the street. We waited about 5 minutes, then got out quickly and went to my apartment. I left my car parked there all night. So a couple of things about this. My car was so hidden, I might as well have drove into a garage. The police officer thought I was living out of town, so he probably would have gone out to look for me heading in the wrong direction. Also, and this is very big, when I put my foot down, why did he not call it in? If I had to outrun more than one car, I could have easily got boxed in on those back streets. I lost him in a minute, or less maybe. He didn't have time to get mad, cussing in the radio or something. All of these elements explain why I did it, and why I got away with it. It was a juvenile stunt. I said I was all of 17. I didn't like being told what to do. The cop didn't call it in because he was doing wrong, harassing us in the first place. It's hard for me to be objective about that. Now, I'm the only person I've ever met who's outrun the police in a car chase. Or so I thought. My own sister's done it too, so it runs in the family. Her story is from 1987. She lived in Winder or Bogart, probably still working downtown. She's been known to have a left foot. I'm just saying, she probably won't agree with that. I asked her how fast she was going. She said, 80 or so and a 50. Knowing her 80 plus for sure. So she's flying down the road. The cop car approaching in the opposite direction. There's just not enough time to take your foot off the gas and slow it down. I'm sure my sister, for her own reasons, did not want a speeding ticket. Cop went past, slowed down to do the turnaround and catch up. She had an 18-wheeler between her and the cop by now, and at the bend she did a fast right off the main road. The back road runs parallel, just a cover of Georgia pine trees. So he hadn't seen her do the turn, and she could watch him looking around for her as she made her way home on the back road. That must have been so satisfying. As Is there a moral to this story? Know your backroads well. Cops don't study them, I guess. That's my story. If you like, compliment. If you love, subscribe. And don't forget to take hostages.